a.m. I'll call the Public Welfare Subcommittee meeting to order. The clerk will please call the roll.
Councillor Heath.
Present.
Councillor Mack.
Present.
Councillor Munoz.
Present.
There's nobody here to make a recording, so I don't have to read that. Reading of the minutes prior meeting minutes, March 21st, 2025, April 16th, 2025. I'll entertain a motion. Councillor Heath.
Yeah, I'll take a motion to go ahead and waive the reading of the minutes and take them as presented. Second.
The motion is to waive the reading of the minutes of the prior meetings, March 21st and April 2nd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. The first up on our agenda is item 11505, the Montezut Vocational Technical School presentation. We had this presentation in March, and it was my oversight that we should have taken a vote on this item, so it's back on our agenda. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to place the item on file. Second.
Motion to place the item on file. Any comments or discussion about the Montezut school budget?
I have none.
I appreciate the presentation was very thorough. It was very well done. The only thing I would say is, to explain to the public is the Montezut Vocational School budget makes up of many cities and towns, and it's very hard for us to disapprove their budget or vote against it. But I would encourage our two representatives to the Montezut School Committee to get more information to us. I think at this point we need to look at it more analytically and not always say it's okay. I think there has to be more questioning, and it would take multiple cities and towns to do that. I'm totally in favor of Montezut, as everybody knows. I was a retired educator, but what they pay per pupil spending versus what we pay in Gardner for the amount of students we have there, which is probably in the 260s, versus what we pay per pupil here in Gardner for almost 2,900 students. I just think more questioning has to sometime get involved. The admissions process again is at the state level. For the lottery system, I think it is. I love the new MVP program, but I think that the schools, cities, and towns personally need to get involved in the process because, it's a very large budget for the amount of students we send there. So that's just my own. As I said, I'm not against Montezut, never have been, but I just want to see more dialogue in within the cities and towns with Montezut before the budget presentation is to us, and that we don't always become a rubber stamp to their budget. All those in favor of placing the budget on file? Aye. Motion passes. Item 11519, an ordinance to amend the Code of the City of Gardner, Chapter 675 thereof, entitled Zoning, to amend Section 510, therefore entitled Floodplain Override District, in order to comply with the recent amendments to the required set forth by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. There is no one here to speak on this ordinance. Do we have any discussion?
Yes, if you may. Chair. This item here, is this something that who would we have here to speak on their behalf normally?
Probably the city engineer, the mayor, Department of Public, Works maybe, but I would definitely say the engineer, anybody involved in the Department of Conservation would represent this.
So with this item right here, I'd like to make a motion to place it on file and request that we get representation to go ahead and speak on behalf of this item.
Right.
Second.
Yeah. A second. I agree, because yeah, we need more information on this. You know, I know it's amendments to a requirement, but there should be more of a full explanation, before we refer it back to the council. So we'll, make a motion to keep this on our agenda. Can I amend it to keep it on our agenda?
Yes, I apologize.
The motion is to keep it on our agenda to a future meeting, to have representatives to speak in favor of this. If by any chance the mayor or somebody shows up before the end of this meeting, we will revisit this item today. All those in favor of keeping this on our agenda? Aye. Item 11523, an order authorizing spending limit of the Council on Aging Recreational Activities revolving account to $60,000 or available budget, whichever is lower pursuant to section 53E and a half of chapter 45, the general laws of the Commonwealth. Director Ellis, thank you for joining us today.
Councilors, Madam Chair, thank you for inviting me and allowing me to come and speak on this. I appreciate your consideration. The request to increase the total allows us to have a little bit more flexibility in rolling over the funds at the end of our fiscal and program years. Obviously, in the summer, we have much fewer programs, we spend less money, so we're kind of asset rich at the end of the year, and then we deplete that you know, during the program year. We have been very lucky, folks. I really just want to say this and reiterate it. We've been very lucky at receiving a lot more community support for things like our newsletter. We don't pay anything anymore for the newsletter. We have enough advertisers that cover the entire cost of that. So those expenses aren't coming out of the revolving account. As a result, we have higher balances. So we just want to make sure that we're able to retain those to fund our program and services at the Gardner Senior Center and not kind of lose that money at the end of the year, because we're being, you know, pretty good stewards, I think, of the money. So rather than penalize us, I'm hoping that we can increase it.
Any questions?
Uh,
It's a very good position to be in.
It is a good position to be in.
You know, and I'm sure that also, you get a lot of donations and memorial donations as well.
We've seen a definite uptick in the amount of support we have to honor and recognize seniors in our community that have passed, and we're so grateful for those. Really, a lot of the funding support is coming from, you know, other sources. We picked up some grants. You know, there's another great indication. We'll get some grant money in the next 30 days that'll be spent in the next, you know, 6 months. But it's going to be this influx of cash by the end of the year that we're not going to be able to spend down. So there's another good reason, and certainly it's a good position to be in. Our programs and services money is flush, but we can't use program and services money for operations. Our operational budget, you know, we're really running on a very thin line there. But programs and services, knock on wood, we should be in great shape for the certainly next year or two. And just so that you all understand, when we talk about programs and services, that money pays for our instructors and our vendors. And we make about half of, the model used to be we would make half or less than half back in donations. But the amount of participation has increased substantially, so in many cases now, we're bringing in 75% or 80% of our cost, still costing us 20 to 30% for that particular instructor, but it's a heck of a lot better than the old 60% that it used to be. So that gives us a little bit more wiggle room in terms of revenue. So it's nice. It is a nice place to be in, I gotta tell you.
And I acknowledge the fact by doing this, you're not under any timeline, because sometimes when you have to spend money fast, it's not always wisely spent.
I agree.
And
yeah.
so I am wholeheartedly in support of this. I will entertain a motion to recommend passage to the full council.
Second.
Make a motion to pass on to, the order to the full council for approval.
And there's a second by Councillor Heath. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And while we still have Director Ellis here, our next item is another very positive one, 11532, an order accepting gifts and donations to the Gardner Senior Center.
We, again, have been very lucky. I will say that the list that we provided to the mayor of the donations to date have included the larger ones, because that's what we're required to do. But we get a lot of small donations. Certainly now we're seeing as seniors are downsizing, they're, with anticipation of us moving to a new facility, they're helping us find, you know, furniture and accent items that would help de-institutionalize the look of the new location. Those kind of donations are so unbelievably important, and I want to say thank you to the folks that do that. But our cash donations have been great. Certainly there are stalwart supporters of the Gardner Senior Center that each and every year give us sizable cash donations. We break it down into either a twice a year report or 4 times a year report to you, but if you really look at it as a consolidated, some of those financial contributions are pretty high. So I hope you have the detailed list, and I just want to make sure that I go on record of saying thank you to the businesses and the individuals that support us, not only monetarily, certainly the monetary donations are exceptional, but for the product. And if I may just single out one organization, Sterilite. As we were looking to address some of our storage issue solutions and say, all right, how do we manage this better? And also partnering with the CAC in food storage, we reached out to Sterilite. It's just a great example. We were able to explain to them what was going on in our need, and they responded in such a dramatic way. They said, oh, geez, yeah, and we put in a very small order. When we got the call back, they said, bring a trailer. And, you know, we picked up a lot of containers for the Gardner Senior Center and the Gardner CAC, which we've used. We're actually in a position of going back to them and asking if they might consider another donation. So that kind of stuff is really important. It seems trivial, but it allows us to more effectively use our facility and keep stuff, you know, organized and placed in a way that's not obstructing folks or is messy looking. So I'm just so appreciative. So I would hope that you would consider accepting those with my gratitude and recognition of folks that just do so much for our center.
I just want to point out to anybody who wants to look at our package on page 89 is a detailed list of the donations that they can see. And I just, you know, I'm appreciative, and I just want to encourage anybody else to reach out to the CAC or to the Senior Center if they want to make a monetary or a specific donation, especially with the move to the new community center. And just an example, just to point out one is, you know, you can look at the Gardner VFW as closing and joining with the American Legion, but look at something positive. They donated 2 pool tables to the Senior Center. That's a high budget item if you were to buy pool tables. And they're just really helping their own, because many of the people who are involved in the senior centers are veterans. And just, you know, paying it forward just to, what are we going to do with these? Let's give them somewhere they will be really appreciative. And I know that you have a group of people who love to play billiards at the senior center on a weekly basis. So that's just one of many. So I too extend the gratitude of the city on behalf of the council, because I mean, donations are what make things work.
Interesting, Counselor, that you brought that up. We currently have 3 tables. One of the tables is barely staying alive right now, that it's not going to make the move. So having these 2 tables really allows us to ensure that our program stays at, or it can grow, stays at capacity or it can grow. One interesting dynamic is we're not ready to move those tables. We don't have a place for them yet. And our local business has graciously offered to allow us to store them in that location, dry, safe, protected until we're ready to move them to the new facility. So that's the kind of support we get in this community. And we've seen it, you've seen it. You're all from Gardner, you know and understand the generosity of a community that is unlike many, not only in this great and glorious Commonwealth, but across this country. So we're very thankful to organizations like VFW and the people that make these decisions. So thank you.
Maybe the pool table is no small task.
Moving the daylight, that's no small task, but there are at least 3 counselors here that will roll up their sleeves and.
Exactly, exactly. I'll move the sticks and the balls and the chalk, whatever else you need.
If I may.
Yeah,
Thank you, Chair. There's one business here on the list that went ahead and, sticks out to me is, Big Lots. You know, they had a nice donation to help out and everything else, and I know that's difficult when you're closing the doors and you go ahead and, you know, I mean, it went to a great cause, but I wasn't expecting to see their name on here considering, you know, and, that's awesome.
They've been great, counselor. And I don't want to belabor this, but I want to let you know, like every single day, our volunteers from the Gardner Senior Center and the CAC are visiting local establishments that are collecting day of donations, food donations every single day, including weekends. Big Lots, some time ago, changed their vendor for their discontinued items or their outdated items or soon to be outdated. They can't really give us outdated, they have to give us like day of or, and when they changed, the first thing they did was contact us and say, is this something that you would be interested in? And so we've been lucky for 2 years to be able to collect food donations from organizations like Big Lots. And people don't think that has impact. When you're rolling 2 carts of food, that sometimes folks who are struggling, that go to a food pantry, might not otherwise have access to. And I know it sounds maybe a little gratuitous, it's not. Snack food and those treats, those aren't normally available at the Worcester County Food Bank or through food donations. But we still need those, right? If you think about your own, you know, vices, whether it's chocolate or pastries, it doesn't matter. And I think that we're allowed to give everyone in the community that needs those services the dignity and access to the same stuff that, you know, we kind of so easily take for granted. So for folks like Big Lots and Hannaford's and Price Chopper and Walmart, who each and every day come to the table with stuff that supports our seniors, but well beyond our seniors, folks in our communities in need, I certainly want to go on record with you to say thank you to them and allowing us to go into their organizations to help the people we serve. So.
That's awesome. Just going off what you said, I can attest to the fact that, you know, I'm in the stores, so I see them coming in.
I know.
I send my chips to you guys all the time. So, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the donations in place and send the approval to the full council.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate
And all you do, we appreciate it. Item 11533, an amendment of the code of the city of Gardner, chapter 675, therefore entitled zoning to change and add commercial overlay classification on certain parcels of land on Central Street. The mayor was going to be here. I don't know if he's still coming to speak on this item. This item was referred to us by the council as well as to the planning board to set up a joint public hearing. But I think if we have any conversation on this is a good time to do it. I know Councilor Thibault-Munez, that you have an interest in this item.
Yeah, sure. So this is a conversation I've been having for a while around particularly the La Grassa building, which is at 28 Central, which has been vacant for a really long time. And my understanding is that it was locked into residential 3 because of the amount of time that it's been vacant, making it difficult, creating an obstacle for anyone who would want to develop the property. Also down the road at 100 Central is a building that's owned by the Cheer City Church, who are also interested in developing, but it's an issue related to the being locked in this a residential 3 zone. This would create an overlay to allow for development of these properties and other properties as commercial.
Thank you. Councilor Heath?
I'm actually in favor of this. You know, I know, like you said, this has been conversations for a while. and, you know, anything that we can go ahead and do to help, make it look better in those areas and bring more opportunities, I'm definitely in favor of. I mean, of course, with, some hesitation in some situations, but this one right here, I'm definitely for.
Thank you. I'm also in favor of this. 28 Central, the old LaGrassa's building has just become an eyesore. Looking back at the history, many years ago, there was a business that was interested in going there, and there was just a small group of local Ward 1 residents that spoke out against it, and it was unfortunate that nothing then went into that building, and it has just fallen into more disrepair. It is an eyesore. I think that every ward in the city has to become more business friendly and open to change and allowing things to occur. You know, and so thank you, Councilor Tebow Muniz, as the Ward 1 councilor, for you know, bringing this to people's attention and supporting this. Also, 100 Central Street is a beautiful historic building in Gardner. It's one of the former Haywood homes. And I've gone in, the woodwork is beautiful, and I commend Chair City Church for what they want to do to save that building and to start a business there. So I will entertain a motion to the full council.
Yes, entertain a motion to the full council as a whole, to go ahead and, put this up for passage.
Second.
Okay, item 11533, to forward to the full council for approval. Again, this would also be, would not be voted on until the public hearing takes place on this item, which again will be a joint public hearing with the zoning board and the city council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Order is, we'll move back on over to the city council calendar. In relation to that, item 11534, an amendment to the zoning ordinance, chapter 675, submitted by Chair City Church and 10 registered voters, to add a new section entitled Historic Preservation Project, amending the table of use to allow the same by special permit, amending the Article 8, off-street parking, loading, and drive-through standards, subsection 675, 740, to facilitate historic preservation projects. Additional amendments to the relief from parking regulations to be applied generally, and additional amendments more specifically stated in the petition and attachments. I will open this up for discussion. Again, nobody is here from the mayor's office to speak on this behalf, but we all have the information and have already had previous discussion on this item through the council.
Yeah, definitely in support of this amendment to the zoning ordinance. Like you say, it's this beautiful not utilized built property, and if, you know, not having the ability to have parking at a commercial property is obviously prohibitive. So it makes sense to amend the ordinance to allow for that. It's one less obstacle to overcome.
Yes, and to be clear, you know, this item goes along with the last item, and this item right here will help with the potential, you know, of what's to come for that building, what was, you know, possibly proposed, which I'm definitely in favor of. I don't really have much more to say.
This came before us because this was in front of the council prior. Due to time limits, there is a limitation of time that this has to be before the council and the planning board to get approved. So it came back to us because the planning board was not able to meet in a timely manner. So this is attached to the Chair City Church wanting to renovate 100 Central Street. Although they do have parking on the which was the former Sacred Heart School side, I had asked the Attorney Tree, but this is just needed for the expansion of that project. And again, this would require passage of the full council, subject to the public hearing from the joint public hearing between the planning board and the council, as well as approval of the planning board as well. So I think that you know, in order to promote their expansion and their desire to renovate this property for very positive use, which I believe is still a coffee shop, counseling offices, and some housing on the third floor, that this is, you know, something that we should support and let it go through the full process. I'll entertain a motion to approve this amendment to the zoning ordinance to bring back to the council, of course, for a vote subject to the joint public hearing.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to move forward to the full council and for public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's the issue of our, that's the list of our items. Council questions, comments, concern on anything?
Yeah, I have a question. You had a coffee shop, cause I heard a tea shop, a tea house. That's what I was.
I think it's both.
Coffee, I think you can get both there, Council.
I gotta get clarity, cause
Okay.
that's gonna go on my vote. If it's tea, I'm with it. If it's
Okay.
coffee, I don't care.
And just because of that, just say that the church is very, like many other organizations in the city, have a lot of volunteers within their congregation, and that's what makes them work as well. Any comments, Councilor?
I want to definitely thank the Chair City Church for bringing this forward and to, you know, continuing to serve our community, and hopefully it's goes through and we're, you know, full support.
I just want to go over the next meeting of the Public Welfare Committee will be held on May 30th at 8:30 a.m. This will be the department budget hearings for all the departments that fall under the Public Welfare Committee. We did receive a timeline of the budget process from Council President Tyros. All subcommittee budget hearings need to be completed by the 30th. Public safety will be May 22nd at 8 a.m. Public service and the economic and community development dates and times have yet to be determined. The budget is available on the Gardner City Hall website. And just what happens is we, as each individual subcommittee, meet and go with the department heads and ask any questions. We cannot add to the budget, we can only delete from the budget. However, us as city councilors are responsible to be informed of all of the subcommittee meeting budgets prior to the first informal meeting, which will be on June 2nd at 7:30, and the second one will be a week later on June 9th if needed. And so I'll just speak to myself personally. If I can't attend public safety, I will then watch the video. So all my questions are answered. If I have other questions, I will submit them through the mayor or through a counselor that serves on that subcommittee to ask that question for me. So that's when we get together on the 2nd, and then if needed on June 9th, before the regular vote, which will be on June 16th, that all the counselors have had their questions vetted and any concerns. So that's how our budget process works. But again, the budget is listed on the Gardner website if anybody, from the mayor, if anybody wants to review it, and especially the narratives. I find the narratives from every department head to be extremely informative. The mayor started that last year, and it tells us about what's currently going on in their department and the vision they have for their department, and it also supports their any of their asks or wants for new items or increases. So with that being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.